It's only going to be shared with members. It's not going to be shared, and I'm not going to sell your video or your voice or anything. So thank you all for joining. I'll keep an eye out on the participants to see if anyone else wants to join in. I just want to remind everyone to mute themselves. We will have the opportunity for questions. I invite commentary, but just in the interest of background noise and everyone being able to hear me clearly, muting is encouraged. Um, as I was explaining a little bit, if you heard, this is basically just like an overview of Passover as a holiday, because as New Yorkers, Jewish culture is so ingrained into our everyday life, and everything from throwing in Yiddish words here and there and just being familiar with like, things that are kosher and things that are culturally Jewish we're really familiar with, but the religious aspects of Judaism are not always, there's like a mysticism to them in a sense sometimes. So I wanted to provide the opportunity for people to learn a little bit about the holiday. I by no means am a rabbi. I'm not very, very knowledgeable in Jewish holidays, but one of the holidays that I did celebrate um, more consistently was Passover, and it's a favorite of mine. So I'm gonna share a little slideshow about the holiday, share some songs and stuff, and feel free to add any commentary, any questions. And if you do celebrate the holiday on your own, I would love to hear how you celebrate, or things that you know about Passover, or if you know people who celebrate, or you've celebrated with people, you can feel free to share that. So I want it to be an open space to have the opportunity to learn, and B, just have a conversation and learn about, the different cultures that represent Isaac's members. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Everyone can see it so far?
Not yet.
Okay,
Now.
let's see. How about now?
It's perfect.
Awesome.
It's
Alrighty.
good.
So I made this slideshow last year, but it still applies apparently. So I'm going to do a Passover 101, making sense of Passover during a modern day plague. So you'll learn, if you're not familiar with the holiday, plagues are kind of tied into it. And obviously we're living through our own pandemic right now. So it's a little play on the holiday. So the first thing would be, what is Passover? So Passover commemorates the Jewish freedom from Egypt. It tells a story of Exodus. Traditionally, it lasts 8 days and is most commonly known for the rule, which you cannot eat bread or leavened products. So a lot of people ask, well, when people think of Jews, especially in New York, it's typically thought of like Ashkenazi Jews, European Jews from European descent, but there's a diaspora, there's Jews everywhere. And at the time, Jews were enslaved in Egypt, and they left because they were trying to leave enslavement. Where were they going? They were planning on going to Israel, the land of Israel. And how did they get there? They walked. It apparently took them 40 years, but if you Google map the walk from Egypt to Israel, it's about 3 days. So they definitely got lost. So this is the short, brief overview of Passover. So the story goes, Jacob and the children of Israel, the Jews, arrived in Egypt to help the king Pharaoh during a period of death and famine. The Jews are tolerated during this period. Then Jacob dies and to handle the quote unquote infestation, or the problem that was the Jews, the Pharaoh enslaved them. Then a Jewish baby is born, and the story of the child is that they put the baby in a they put a baby in a basket by the river, and the Pharaoh's daughter finds the baby and raises it as her own in the palace, which the Pharaoh doesn't like Jews. They bring the baby, no one really knows. Anyway, the baby is Moses. If you're familiar with Moses, this is his story. Moses grows up and learns of the injustices of the Jews and leaves the palace. The Jews in Egypt are suffering and crying out to God, pleading for their freedom. One day, Moses is herding sheep, and he sees a burning bush, and the bush talks to him, and God appears to say to the Pharaoh, appears and tells him to say to the Pharaoh, let my people go so they may serve me. But he claims he has a speech impediment, so he asks his brother Aaron to speak on his behalf. The Pharaoh refuses and increases the burden of the labor that the Jews must do because they were enslaved. And Moses is upset with God because he doesn't know why God could allow such a thing. God reassures him that the Pharaoh will get it from him. So God comes and he speaks to Moses and he's like, I'm going to help you out. Like, I got you. But, Moses is doubting it because there's all these terrible things happening and the treatment of the Jews is so terrible. And he's just waiting for a sign that something's going to change. So God sends down the 10 plagues. So we have the first one, and these in the Seder, I'll go over how the Seder and the significance of the Seder, but during the Seder you go through the 10 plagues and there's certain things that you do that commemorate or acknowledge these plagues. So the first one is blood. Water in the Nile turns to blood. The second one is frogs, Sfardea. Frogs swarm the land. The third one is lice, Kanim. Lice infest all men and beasts. The beasts, Arov. Wild animals invade the city. There's still no freedom after all these plagues. God's giving all these signs for the Pharaoh to release the Jews from enslavement, but still nothing, even after these terrible things. Then he keeps going. There's pestilence, Dever. Fatal widespread disease kills domestic animals and livestock. Then there's boils, Shechin. Painful boils on the Egyptians. Hail, Barad. Fire and ice come down from the sky. The Pharaoh tries to compromise, saying he'll let the men go if the women and the children can stay. So he's talking about the Jewish children and the Jewish women, and he's saying, I'll let the men go. But Moses and God are not looking for compromises. So with that being said, God continues. He sends locusts, arbe, swarms of locusts. I didn't include a picture because I feel like that would be pretty gross to see a bunch of bugs. But if you know what locusts look like, you know it was definitely not a fun time. The next thing was Hoshesh. An intense darkness envelops the land. And then slaying of the firstborn, but Makat Bechorot. God asked for an offering of the lamb as he planned to take the lives of all the firstborns in Egypt. Jews marked their door with the blood of the Paschal lamb. Freedom. The final plague marks the point where Pharaoh is rushing the Jews out of Egypt so quickly that their bread didn't have time to rise, which is how matzah came to be. Usually you bake challah for Shabbat. You have, that's your go-to bread recipe, but they were in such a rush, they didn't have time for the bread to rise, and that's how we got matzah. They forgot to add the leavener. This is known as the Exodus, hence the name of the story in the Bible. Moses leads the Jews through the desert for 40 years, which again, if you Google map how to get from Egypt to Israel walking, it should only take you about 3 days. And he leads them to the sea where the Pharaoh tries to give it one more go because they're at a dead end. God tells Moses to raise his staff and Moses parts the Red Sea, leading the Jews to freedom. That's the infamous scene where the water parts so the Jews can walk through. Alrighty, so next I'm going to be going over the Seder. So as I said, there is a Passover Seder is typically how Passover is celebrated. It's a ritualistic dining experience with really great food. I would say the best Jewish holiday food to exist. And I'm going to go a little bit over that.
Okay, wait a minute.
So
Mondays through Fridays, except Tuesday, 9 to 5. Okay.
Harry, what are you talking about?
I just muted him. I think he was taking a phone call. Okay. Oops. So, all right, so the Seder. Seder stems from the word order in Hebrew. So a Seder is a meal that is eaten in a particular order to tell the story of Passover. Seders are typically held the first and second nights of Passover, and I believe also the second to last and last night. The Seder plate These are Seder plates. They can get very intricate and they're really pretty, but they have there's significant placement for things on the Seder plate. So the plate is designed to display items that are symbolic to the Passover celebrations. They include a shank bone, a hard-boiled egg, 2 bitter herbs, leafy greens, and an apple mixture. If you've ever had the chance to have attend a Passover Seder, um, depending on your taste, some of the stuff will be good, some of it isn't, and a part of it being enjoyable or not enjoyable is also a part of the rituals. So, what do the items on the Seder plate represent? So, the roasted shank bone, one of the most striking symbols of Passover, is the roasted lamb shank bone, which commemorates the Paschal lamb sacrifice. So, when there was the plague of the slaying of the firstborn, and the Jews marked their doors with blood, the blood of a lamb, this is its significance. The roasted egg is a symbol in many different cultures, usually signifying springtime and renewal. Maror, a bitter is a any bitter herb will work, though horseradish is the most common. Bitter herbs are used bring tears to the eyes and recall the bitterness of slavery. Haroset, there's nothing further from Aurora than Haroset, the sweet salad of apples, nuts, wine, and cinnamon that represents the mortar used by Hebrew slaves to make bricks. Some people make Haroset sandwiches with the horseradish and the matzah and the Haroset all together. It tastes really great. But obviously, as you can see, the bitter herb is supposed to represent the bitterness of slavery. So some people like horseradish, some people hate it. But its ability to bring tears to your eyes and remind you of is supposed to remind you of the bitterness of slavery. So it has a reason for not being the most appealing to some. Then we have karpas, which is a green vegetable. It's usually parsley, but any spring green will do. And karpas symbolizes the freshness of spring. And then there's hazeret, is a second bitter herb, which is usually lettuce. Also on the table is salt water to dip the karpas in, representing the sweat and tears of our ancestors, while also signifying springtime and seawater. Matzah is the unleavened bread brought on the journey to freedom. And then there's 4 glasses of wine that's typically drank on 4 different occasions of the Seder to signify the 4 biblical promises of redemption. So as you can see, there's lots of eating. It's a very interactive eating experience. Also, for a lot of people, when you get through the 10 plagues and you eat all the stuff on the Seder plate, that's kind of a signal for when to eat, which is an exciting part of the Seder, because as I was discussing with Susan, some people's Seders are really quick. You read through some of the important parts depending on what you prioritize of the Seder, and it can be quick, or some Seders can last up to 4 hours, maybe more, depending on how much of the text of the Haggadah you want to read. I actually have a Haggadah here that I can show you. Where is it? So as you can see, it's pretty thin, but there's a lot of text, and some people choose to go through all of it. Some people choose to just go through certain parts, but if you go through the whole thing, you will definitely have a very thorough Seder and you'll get a thorough telling of the story. So perfect segue. So as you can see, we have the Haggadot. Haggadot is the plural for Haggadah, which is a book that I just showed you. It's a text that's used to guide through the Seder. The story told by the Haggadah is the same, but it can be told in different ways. So as you can see, there's one that's themed for the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. There's a women at the Seder Haggadah, a zombie Haggadah. If you look up Haggadahs online, you can find different ones. Because the story has such a significance and tells so many lessons, there's many ways that the Haggadah, which again kind of sets the tone of your Seder, that it can be used to make things relevant. So obviously last year with the Black Lives Matter movement being so prevalent, and obviously with our presidential administration or, you know, just us living through a modern day plague. There's so many different ways that the story can be written or structured to apply to different needs, whether it be social justice, thinking about charity in mind and stuff like that, and understanding the parallels between the story of the Jews leaving Egypt and their exodus to modern day social justice issues. So food and beverages, this is a fun part. So as I said, food is a big reason why Passover is such an exciting holiday is for food. And obviously, as I discussed in the beginning as well, um, Jewish culture is so ingrained in New York culture. It's, you know, very synonymous. So there's plenty of things that we automatically think of that are very New York in nature or very accessible in New York that are because of you know, Jewish cultures and traditions. So one of those things for sure is matzo ball soup. I mean, outside of New York, it's you probably can't just walk into a diner and order yourself a matzo ball soup. And there's plenty of people who aren't Jewish, have no idea about, you know, Passover or Jewish holidays or Jewish culture, but matzo ball soup is something that they enjoy. It's a very brisket is also a very common food served on Passover, and it's delicious, and everyone has their recipes that they fight over of who's the best, who makes the best, who makes the worst, etc. I do make a pretty good brisket. I do pat myself on the back for it, and if you want a recipe, definitely let me know. I will send it to you. And then some of you got the Passover, the holiday spring package, and in that included obviously matzah, which is for a lot of people they find versatile ways to make matzah work into their diet. You have the coconut macaroons, rainbow cookies are a really popular food for Passover. There's gefilte fish, which is kind of a hit or miss. You either love it or you hate it. Same goes with the ring jellies. And then side dishes are really prominent for the holiday. So like really good roasted veggies and stuff like that to go along with your brisket and the rest of your meal. So there's a lot of different dietary rules that apply for Passover that don't so not only do people who are more observant keep kosher, but for some people they also keep kosher for Passover, which means that you can't eat leavened products, stuff that will expand in the cooking process. So depending on which like what Jewish law you follow, if you follow like Ashkenazi rules or Sephardi rules or Mizrahi rules, there that determines what you're allowed to eat by, you know, rabbinical law. So one of the things that's debated on is for Sephardi Jews they can eat rice, and but most Ashkenazi Jews won't because it grows and it swells in the cooking process. Same thing goes for legumes, I think like corn. So a little secret, I'm going to let you in a little secret. If you ever see kosher for Passover soda, specifically Coke, if you can find it, a lot of people have learned the secret. Kosher for Passover Coke is made with cane sugar as opposed to the corn syrup, which a lot of people like. It's comparable to Mexicoke, but it comes in a 2 liter. So a lot of people get excited for the kosher for Passover releases of certain products. So basically, a common theme amongst Jewish holidays is that they tried to kill us, we survived, and now we eat. This is one of those holidays. They kept us enslaved in Egypt. They kept and we tell the story. We survived. We made it to Israel, and now we eat. So Passover tells the story of Exodus, where the Jews pleaded with God to grant them freedom from Egypt and the wrath of the Pharaoh. It took a while, some plagues, getting lost in the desert for 40 years, the parting of a sea, but here we are to tell the story. We lived, we survived, and we did it. So thank you for joining me for that. And I wanted to share 2 of the very popular songs. So this one you may get very upset with me about for the simple fact that it's an earworm. Once you hear it, you will not stop hearing it for the rest of the day. Oh, hold on. Let me make sure I share my sound so you can actually hear it. All right, just give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Alrighty, so this song is called Dayenu. Dayenu means it would have been enough. So when God was sending down the plagues and the Jews are saying, please God, help us, get us out of this slavery, this song is celebrating and saying it would have been enough. So even if God just sent one plague, two plagues, got them out of slavery, parted the sea, whatever it would have been, the song is it would have been enough. So they're saying different reasons why it would have been enough, but it's a very, very
Ilu ilu hotianu mi mitzrayim hotianu mi mitzrayim dayenu 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 Ilu ilu koralanu etayam dayenu dayenu Natan lanu dayenu 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 Ilu ilu kerbanu leze hasina leze hasina dayenu 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 Natalanu echatora natalanu echatora dayenu 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 Ilu ilu ichnisanu li eretz Yisrael dayenu 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 dayenu
Aviva, it's time to open the door for Eliyahu.
Alrighty, I have two more fun songs to share. So another part of the Seder is asking the 4 questions. So this is kind of one of those culture references that we hear of and we know of. Maybe like SNL's made jokes about it, like funny shows have made jokes about it. So a part of the Seder is I ask, why is this night different from all other nights? That's a question they ask because obviously Passover, we don't have Seders for every holiday. Like there's a Shabbat dinner every Friday that has its own rituals and customs. There's holidays like Purim or Hanukkah, and they don't do Seders. So the question is, why is this night different from all other nights? It's typically asked by the youngest person present. So I'll just ask the questions. The questions on all other nights, we eat leavened bread or matzah unleavened. On this night, why only unleavened bread? The second question is, on all other nights, we eat herbs of any kind. On this night, why only bitter herbs? The third question is, on all other nights, we do not dip our herbs even once. On this night, why do we dip them twice? And the fourth question is, on all other nights, we eat our meals in any other manner. On this night, why do we sit around the table in a reclining position? So these questions have to do with the different parts of the story. So a part of there's a song that goes along with it, and I will play it for you. If you haven't had the chance to see the Saturday night Seder that was done as a fundraiser for COVID relief, it's a really fun way to kind of virtually attend a Seder. I'll make sure I send that out in a link with the recording of this meeting, so you guys can view it on your own time.
Fleece Vibes, only at Old Navy and Old Navy.
The Saturday night Seder was a gathering of a bunch of different celebrities who basically put together the Seder. So the first song I'm going to show you, if you're familiar with Idina Menzel, she sang in Frozen, she was in Wicked, she's a big Broadway star, fantastic voice, and she sings a song Ma Nishtana, which is a song that's typically sung when the 4 questions are asked and asking why this night is different from all other nights. And then my last song I'm going to share with you is more of a pop culture song than it is a Passover song. So this is Ma Nishtana. Oops.
Being a Jew is controlling the banks and the media. So I'd say my favorite thing about being a Jew is controlling the banks and the media. But besides that, I really like it's a culture of questioning, and I like all the questions that surround this. And I think the 4 questions are probably my favorite part of Passover. And usually the youngest in the family asks those 4 questions. I used to be the youngest, and so I would ask them. But now that I'm no longer the youngest, I thought it would be cool to bring in my youngest son to come in and maybe do the 4 questions himself.
Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Good, Finn. How are you, son?
I'm good. You gotta stop calling me your son.
Okay. Can I say that I'm your co-star in Stranger Things?
It won't be true, but yeah, you could do that.
Okay, great. So, are you ready to sing the 4 questions?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't even know the 4 questions.
Well, I don't actually know them very well myself. I just used to sing, Hakuna Matata, and then my grandfather would cry in embarrassment. So I
Guys, this is embarrassing. You have to let me help you.
Oh, your piano?
Always.
Cool, yeah. You're not the youngest, though.
Okay, log off, kid. Ma nishtana laila hazeh mikol halelot shebechol halelot anu ochlin hametzu matzah halayla hazeh kulo matzah. That's the way it's done. Mic drop. I'm out. This is embarrassing. You have to let
Alrighty, and for my last song, I'm also going to share another performance that was done during the Saturday Night Seder, which again, if you're just joining in, the Saturday Night Seder is a really great opportunity for you to follow along with the Seder and how it kind of would be done, especially during COVID times when a lot of us are gathering virtually. So especially as a kid, for me personally, there aren't like a lot of Jewish movies or movies that celebrate Jewish holidays. So The Prince of Egypt is a really iconic movie that tells the story of Passover. And the music obviously is really iconic from that. And one of the songs that's super iconic is the song When You Believe, which was originally sung by Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. But I'm sharing a little Broadway version, which is also fantastic. It was done by Shoshana Bean and Cynthia Erivo.
Many nights we prayed, but no proof anyone could hear. In our hearts, a hopeful song we barely understood. Now we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to keep. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow you will. You will when you believe. In this time of fear, when prayer so often proves in vain, hope seems like the summer birds too swiftly flown away. And now I'm standing here, my heart's so full I can't explain, seeking faith and speaking words I never thought I'd say. There can be miracles when you believe. You believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to keep. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow you will. You will when you believe. They don't always happen when you ask. And it's easy to give in to your feelings.
Passover, everyone. Stay healthy and safe.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining. I know that was pretty quick. That was kind of a crash course in Passover. If anyone that does celebrate or has celebrated in the past wants to share a little bit about how they've celebrated, feel free. I can go ahead and start off. I know I kind of talked about it in the beginning. So I'm Jewish. I grew up in a Jewish household. I didn't grew up with a religious background. It was more culturally Jewish than anything, but one of my favorite holidays growing up, in addition to Hanukkah, of course, for obvious reasons as a kid, Passover was a second favorite because it's so much about being together with your family and also the ritualistic dining experience. I think it's fun. It's really nice to listen and hear about the different significance of the food that you eat, and there's a purpose to the eating, which I think a lot of us don't always get the opportunity to appreciate, is like significance of food in association with how you're eating it and stuff like that. Also, the food is great. I mean, if you eat meat, brisket is fantastic. So there's nothing better than a good brisket. And yeah, I think it's just a really great holiday. And I love celebrating it, even if it's in my own way now. Obviously I don't have a big family. It's just me and my mom. So it's hard to cook a whole entire brisket for 2 people. And with COVID, I don't have as many friends to invite over to feed. But yeah, that's just how I've been celebrating, and I like to be able to, share the story of Passover with you guys. And if you need a matzo ball soup recipe or a brisket recipe, let me know. Did anyone else want to share anything?
I think Elba was trying to say something.
Elba, did you want to share something?
I would like to get the recipes, especially the matzo ball recipe. I really enjoy that. I used to live I used to go to the Three Daughters in the downtown.
Russ and Daughters?
Russ's daughter. Russ, Russ, Daughters. And get my matzo ball there. But now I can't do that no more.
Yeah. Well, there's some solid places up there. You aren't far from 2nd Avenue Deli. They have a location up there too, and their matzo ball is pretty good. Yeah.
2nd Avenue Deli. That's good too.
Their location uptown's on 1st Avenue, so the name is a little misleading. And they're
okay.
Yeah, and they actually moved from their 2nd Avenue location to 33rd Street as well, which is on 3rd. So none of the 2nd Avenue delis are on 2nd Avenue anymore, but most diners in the city also have matzo ball soup, but it's probably not as great as getting it from
not from Ross. Yeah. And the other thing, the Cats, and the Cats Deli. I used to participate with the Kabbalah Center over on 48th Street. So I used to have Passover with them, and a lot of the Jewish holidays, and taken very seriously. Beautiful. I missed this year and this past.
Everybody missed it.
I missed it so much this year.
Yeah.
But I thank you so much, Gemma, for sending me the meal.
Of course, I'm glad you enjoyed it. We want to be able to try to provide people with stuff.
And it's like very hard for people because to accept the fact that I participate in the Jewish religion so much.
I think it's great.
Because I'm
I think it's great.
But I love it. This is me. It makes me feel very comfortable and it's very freeing. And to be a Latina and do that to my family is so hard. Oh my goodness. But I don't mind. That's okay. They're all grown. And this is my moment. The only thing, the pandemic came along. But then
Hopefully
that's part of
next year.
Yes.
Hopefully next year we can have a nice big Seder. Hopefully.
That's right.
Yeah.
People
There's-
are already putting their food orders in with me.
There's a saying at the Seder. Maybe I'm mixing up my Jewish holidays. The next year in Jerusalem.
Yeah, next year in Jerusalem.
Is that Passover or is that?
I believe it is.
Yeah. So there's a saying, and you say next year in Jerusalem, but we'll just say next year at Isaac's.
All right, that would be perfect.
Susan, did you want to share something?
No, thank you. Just enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you so much, Gemma.
No
Thank
problem.
you very much.
Did
Thank
anyone else want to share anything or have any questions?
I appreciate very much that you took your effort to put all these nice things together. So we didn't let it pass, so we're enjoying it today. Thank you.
No problem.
You made me hungry.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Gemma.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
It was wonderful.
Happy Pesach.
Yeah, happy Passover, everybody. That was enjoyable.
Happy Pesach.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.